Gather round, children, gather round. For this weekend, we race in Vegas. I've been looking forward to this race, I must admit. However, I do feel like it's a little bit too much glitz and glamour is probably going to get in the way of the actual racing, and maybe they thought too much about promoting F1 and bringing in loads of viewers, because let's face it, it probably will be quite a cool spectacle to watch. But I am a bit concerned about the actual racing, and the track itself looks like an upside down pig. Not sure much thought has gone into that itself. Just a bunch of straights and some really tight chicanes. So we'll see what happens with the actual racing, but it's still going to be kind of exciting seeing a night race around Las Vegas, I have to admit. So before we get into team selection for Las Vegas, going to have a quick look at my team, as you can see on screen. Actually did pretty well last time out in Brazil. Feels like so long ago already. Unfortunately, the transfers I made were Perez to Hamilton. Ugh. And then Piastri to Albon. Ugh. I mean, Albon definitely very unlucky with the DNF. There's nothing he could have done. Just pure unluckiness for Alex. Really unfortunate, because I think he would have been on for a good score. Another double-digit haul from him, I would have imagined. And then Lewis. There's just so many of us out there that trusted the Mercedes. Maybe we're looking a bit too much more on the historical data, but they actually looked all right in that one practice session, and they've been on the rise. Hamilton's been getting a couple of podiums. They would have had he was fighting for the win around Cota before the DQ, so I can see why a lot of people, including myself, trusted Lewis Hamilton. However, there were some people worse off from me going around Brazil, and it is that time of the week where we crack out the sad music, bring out the old violin, and we're going to go through some of the real shockers before we get into the team selection for Las Vegas. So if we could, in the audience, just have some moment of silence here as we begin the sad parade. First up, we have Naomi, who used her limitless chip and has been on pretty much a downward trajectory since the summer break. Was in the top 2,000 at the summer break, top 2,000, looking great. Is now dropped down to 37,000 global, just a real rut that she's been in. Trusted the Mercedes with the limitless chip, one of the most important chips of the season. 2 times on Lewis Hamilton as well. Tripled up on the Mercedes, massively let down. I mean, at least you had Norris and Verstappen in your team. I'm sorry. And this caption kind of says it all for me, because as we scroll up, took out Lando and Tsunoda, 2 of the highest scoring drivers that weekend for Russell and Ricciardo. Just a moment of silence, please. This is from another follower of mine on Twitter, F1 Fantasy Homebase. Pretty let down again by the Mercedes. Kind of went in on them, trusted them over the Red Bulls. Lewis Hamilton over Perez didn't work out. Daniel and Oscar both getting hit by debris on that lap 1 chaos, and ended up a lap down for the rest of the race. Just really disappointing from that side of things. And yeah, just a real painful one to take there for the F1 Fantasy Homebase. Lost 5,000 positions all the way down from the top 2,000 down to 7,000. This is from Table Cup. My Limitless got 90 less points than my original team. 90 fewer points. And this is from David or David. No comments needed, as the caption says from him. Limitless chip again, tripling up on the Mercedes, trusting Leclerc as well. Oh, the DNS, that must have been so painful for any Leclerc owners. Just pure misery written all over this, and no Lando Norris, even no McLaren coverage whatsoever. Real pain with the limitless chip. And similarly, and finally on this week's show, the sad parade, we've got Mike, an avid follower on YouTube and Twitter, also went in with the Mercedes and Leclerc. Went from 4,000 all the way down to 11,000. Mike, I'm so sorry. I hope you can pick yourself up in Las Vegas. So, speaking of Las Vegas, let's hop it over back to my team over here. We're going to look at my team, and I'm going to be thinking about what I can do to basically maintain my rank. My rank is up to 151 global. It's actually taken a couple of red arrows in the last couple of weeks, but when I say red arrows, I've literally dropped like 20 or 30 places over 2 weeks, so I can consider myself very lucky. I'm very glad I kept the Red Bull racing. I made that decision quite early on in the week going into Interlagos, so I decided to keep Red Bull. Unfortunately, I didn't quite trust Perez, and that kind of makes me think of a kind of an interesting thought process that I've been thinking about. And I don't know if I've been guilty of playing with, using my emotions too much, let my emotions get in the way of being a more optimal fantasy manager. Like I've been persistent with Sergio Perez for many races, and what happened in Mexico was just like the final straw, and maybe I just let my emotions get in the way, and it's like, no, he's out. I'm not bringing him back in for the rest of the season. He's gone, and I didn't really properly give myself the opportunity to like pick him, even though going into Brazil, it looked like he was probably going to be good, and he should be good every weekend. It's just we've all lost faith, but should we be really using faith in a game that's all about points and data and performance? I don't know. And obviously we paid the price. Anyone who dropped out, Perez, myself included, paid the price. Going from Perez to Hamilton for me cost me roughly 20 points or so. So yeah, quite painful in that regard. It's an interesting topic to touch on. I don't know what you guys think about it. Like, do we let our emotions run a little bit sometimes? And like I've said before in previous videos, that there's a very fine line between patience in fantasy and stubbornness in fantasy. And I felt like after Mexico, maybe I was just being too stubborn with Perez. However, if I'd kept up with that stubbornness/patience and kept him for Interlagos, then I would have been paid off. So it's really, really swings and roundabouts. It's hard to know how patient you should be with various drivers, but I've been patient all through the season pretty much with Sergio Perez, persisting with him even when he's not been doing that great. But just because he should be doing that great, he's in the fastest car and he should be doing well. That's kind of why I've been picking him. And again, he's a temptation this weekend, because even though he's hurt me so many times, the Red Bull should do well around here. It does concern me, and it's a street circuit. We know Sergio Perez historically has been good around the street circuits. This enables me to go up to a nice tidy. I could even go Fernando Alonso in this build, after Fernando's great performance around Brazil, and Stroll even impressed pretty well around Brazil. But I'd have to see quite a lot from the Aston Martins in practice sessions to go over a team like this. I'd be more inclined to stick with the triple up on McLaren and just go back to the template of like a couple of months ago. And this is a temptation for me, and I know there'll be people screaming at their screens right now saying, Tom, what are you doing? Why are you even thinking about Sergio Perez again? But I can't help it. It's in my mind. And like I've already touched on, I don't want my emotions to rule my decision making here. If I pick Perez and he DNFs, it's going to hurt like hell, because I'll just feel terrible, and I'll feel like an idiot for picking him. But as Brazil showed, as Cota showed, he is capable of good performances. If we go have a look, it's just it's literally Cota in Brazil, and the rest of them is like DNF. It's a tough one. But he should be doing better, and he should be doing well around Las Vegas. We'll see what happens in the practice sessions. I'll see if I've got the cojones to put him in there. If I don't trust him enough, and I'm going to let my emotion play a little bit, then I'll be quite tempted to just go Carlos Sainz, and again kind of resort back to this kind of fairly template team and fairly safe team. And for someone that's in the top, not that I want to brag about it, but someone in the top 1,000 that kind of wants to just secure my position, cement my position, don't take too many risks. I think this kind of team here, with my 2 free transfers, just swapping out Albon and Hamilton to a fairly template triple up with the McLaren, touching base with the Ferraris, or the Ferraris do concern me a little bit in terms of race pace and reliability, as we saw the big old DNS from Charles Leclerc. Hopefully that won't happen for Carlos Sainz. But yeah, I'm quite happy, me personally, just going for a team like this. The alternative, there are alternatives that would cost me a -3 to do this, but I could drop down to Danny Ricciardo, Piastri, and go with, where is he? Can't even see him. Charles Leclerc. Could go with a team. Actually, can I afford? No, because I think I'm I'm literally a million shy of doing that, so I can't quite get them. I could potentially get Charles Leclerc in, and keep Tsunoda. And if Leclerc looks good, and I know there's rumours with the whole problem in Brazil that maybe he's going to take some new components to the car that might cause grid penalties. There's been rumours about grid penalties for Ferrari for last couple of races really. But will they take grid penalties in the penultimate race of the season? I'm not so sure. But if he does take grid penalties, in theory that makes him more appealing. But is the Ferrari actually strong enough to get through the field? Have they got a good enough race pace? And is it actually more of a danger for them? Say he qualifies on the front row, but then he takes like a 10-place grid penalty. Do you really want him to be in that meat grinder going into turn one and that on that cold track where braking, heavy braking zones on a cold track, cold tires, cold brakes, does concern me a little bit as to how much potential carnage there will be around this track. On the flip side of that, I guess all the drivers will be very much aware of this going on as well. So maybe everyone will be tiptoeing around very safely and we won't have any trouble. But I find it hard to believe because these racing drivers are just too naturally competitive and they want to get in there. So yeah, Charles Leclerc is certainly an option for me, and I'm kind of tempted by that. I don't think I can quite afford. Can I afford the Piastri build? Can't remember. Let's bring him back in. Yeah, so I can, but it has to be a Daniel Ricciardo. So I don't like that too much because it does require me to take a -4. I've already used my wild card to save me a -4 previously, so I probably won't go for that. But I do like the Leclerc build, but I'd probably stick with Albon in that instance, and then stick with Tsunoda. And the AlphaTauris have looked really strong, so I'm quite happy to stick with Tsunoda. He's scoring remarkably well over the last few races, and Albon as well should do well around here. We know that Williams is pretty good in the straight line. Everyone's very focused on the whole straight line aspect of this race. In fact, if we just flip over, let's have a look at the actual track. Where are we? Mexico. That is definitely not what I want to look at. There we go. Here's the pig track. Upside down pig. So yeah, there's lots of straights around here. You can see sector 1 is just a big straight, but then look at that heavy braking zone, and then it's really, really tight, twisty, and the actual track itself is tight, twisty with walls around it. It does concern me a little bit. How quick is the Williams going to be around those sections? I mean, obviously they're going to probably be really good around the straights, and look at this massive straight going into sector 3, absolutely massive. A DRS as well. We could see if Albon can get a good quali lap in, we could see him keep having a train behind him where he's a bit slow through these corners, but it's just too hard to overtake, and then he just shoots off with the DRS, or not the DRS necessarily, but just good straight line speed down there. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one to know what to go for in this kind of pocket here. But for me, I'm definitely sticking with the core of McLaren, Red Bull, Verstappen with the 2 times. It just seems logical. I mean, there is an argument to maybe put the 2 times on Lando Norris, but I think Verstappen's just a safer bet because McLaren's strength hasn't exactly been their straight line speed, and so they have proven that they're just good kind of everywhere at the moment. They're kind of just basically like the Red Bull, but just a step off them. We saw how well Lando Norris kind of kept up with Max Verstappen round into Lagos. He even threatened early on to make an overtake on Verstappen, but then just fell away a little bit, maybe burned his tyres up a little bit too much. So yeah, the McLaren certainly look good. Mercedes, again, this could be an emotional decision, but I just don't want to touch them. Again, straight line speed for the Mercedes has not been good throughout the season. It's not been one of their strengths, so I don't anticipate them to be particularly great around here. And that leaves me literally in that slot, kind of Perez or Carlos Sainz pretty much, or Leclerc if I want to go down that road. But for me personally, I'm probably going to just keep it kind of safe. Go with a team that looks like this. Perez, if I can bring myself to do it. Otherwise, just Carlos Sainz, and kind of hope that this team kind of maintains my position, maybe gains me a little bit. Who knows? Break into the top 100 would be nice to get into a double digit. But that might be too much to ask for. I don't know. To be honest, I just really would like to avoid DNFs. As we've seen from all the Violin stuff earlier, DNFs are just so painful, and it's definitely something I'd like to see changed in 2024. But I'm not going to get into that now. But yeah, if I could just avoid a DNF, I'll be happy. As long as everyone gets positive points, I'll be happy. Speaking of positive points, that makes me think of chips. I don't have any chips left. If you've got any chips left, I don't know how you've had the patience to get to this point. How have you not pulled the trigger on them? I don't know how you've got through this. If you haven't got any chips left, now is a great time to use it, regardless of what you've got left. I anticipate most people would have the wild card left, maybe no negative autopilot. I'd imagine most of the other big chips would have been used. Wild card is just whatever. Use it if it saves you a -4. Otherwise, just throw it in the bin. Don't use it. That's kind of how useful that chip's been this season. I personally used it to save a -4 earlier, and I guess that's been great for me. But yeah, in terms of other chips, no negative. Could be the golden egg that we need for this race, because if there is going to be as much carnage as one might guess, then the no negative could certainly be good. Autopilot could be good as well if anything was to happen to Max Verstappen for whatever reason. So yeah, I do think if you got a chip, definitely use it, because you're just going to run out of time otherwise. So otherwise, in terms of team selection itself, there are a couple other things you could do, but I'm just personally not kind of leaning towards that. Like I say, I've got my eye on Fernando Alonso. I can squeeze him into this build with my budget just about, and this kind of edges my bets a little bit. Fernando Alonso, obviously a nice, trustworthy driver. And it edges my bets a little bit in case of a Piastri DNF. It only gives me a -20 from the McLaren constructor instead. Although, having extra drivers in here does spread my net a little bit to catch a DNF. Obviously, if I catch a DNF, it'll be -20 instead of -40 if I'm not tripled up on people. But like I say, swings and roundabouts. You just can't avoid the DNFs. They're just random, pretty much random and unlucky. And if you can dodge past them, then hopefully you'll have a good score at the end of the weekend. So yeah. That's kind of my thoughts at the moment. Sorry, it's a bit jumbled up, but it's just I feel like I'm suffering a little bit from fantasy burnout. It's literally right at the end of the season now, and I just got to get through the last couple of races and try and secure that good rank. Yeah, it'd be nice to just sit back and enjoy the nice winter break, to be honest. So I don't know what you guys are thinking. Have you been a little bit burnt out from fantasy? Looking forward to maybe some fresh rules, from fresh pricing in 2024. That's still obviously a few months away. But yeah, let me know as always what you think about Las Vegas. Are you looking forward to it as a spectacle on the whole? Are you looking forward to it in terms of fantasy, or are we all just suffering unnecessarily playing this fantasy game that just gives us DNFs and more pain? I don't know, but I hope for the best, and I'll see you for Abu Dhabi, I guess, because I'm not going to be about this weekend to do any more videos, I'm afraid. I'll probably post a couple of bits on Twitter as usual, so follow me over on Twitter at PopmanF1. But otherwise, yeah, I'll see you for the final race of the season next week for Abu Dhabi. We're almost there. Concentrate on your team selections, these final 2 deadlines, and hopefully you reap the benefits and finish with a decent rank. So, yep, that's it for me for now. Catch you in a week's time for Abu Dhabi. Bye for now. Thanks for listening.